the guidelines that just dropped for the 203K are huge. I can't even begin to express how crazy it is. So that's what this whole training is about. This is what I want to go deep into. A lot of the changes have happened because of the need for housing in the market right now. A lot of people are struggling to find stuff. If you're in the market, you've been struggling to find a house, you think things are overpriced. It's tough out there right now. So FHA and Fannie Mae and HUD have been working around the clock. Really, I'm actually pretty surprised on how much they're doing in terms of the home ownership side. But they've been working on things pretty exclusively for a while now, and they're big game changers for people that are looking. And so these changes that we're going to cover, what it means for you is what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about the, about the nuts and bolts on really what it is. I want to talk about what this means for you. If you're looking to buy a house, what do these changes mean? If you're looking to get into real estate, what are we going to do? What are you going to do to take advantage of this stuff? So, anyway, we're gonna jump on into it. I want to 1 second. I want to make sure I got everything handled on the back end because I'm doing this from my laptop and I don't have my setup normally. So yeah, okay, cool. I think we're good. So again, let's jump right into it. So I prefaced it in the email. I prefaced it in a video I made yesterday. But FHA made a ton of changes very recently regarding the 203K loan. And as you know, that's what I specialize in. That's what I'm the biggest fan of. And the 203K is what allowed me to get my start into real estate investing. It's an extremely, extremely powerful tool. It's insane that more people don't know about it. And the HUD just made it more powerful. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the main changes and how it's going to affect you. So let's jump right into it. So I think the first thing and the most important thing to maybe touch base on is these go into effect November 4th. Now, it's kind of debatable if they need to go into effect by November 4th and if they could be implemented before November 4th. So I'm not 100% sure on that. I think the key here is just work with a lender that absolutely knows what they're doing on these. One of the ways we can make sure of that, work with one of my lender partners and my lender partners that serve all across the U.S. If you are interested in doing this, you want to take advantage of this, go to the 203kway.com/lender. And you can go here, 203k.com/lender, and you'll just fill out this quick form. It just will put you in contact with the lender that I have that will, excuse me, serve the area that you're looking to buy in. Having a lender that's abreast of these changes is really important. You're going to have a lot of lenders out there that don't even know what the heck is happening. So again, starting November 4th, but it can happen sooner. And I'm just going to go through this document. Obviously, this is really boring, so I'm going to talk over this on really what you should be following and what's important to you. A lot of this stuff isn't really pertaining to you, talking about consultants and their certification, but here's the first one. So if you're aware, okay, there's two versions of the 203K. Okay, there's two versions of the FHA 203K renovation rehabilitation mortgage. Okay, there's one version called the limited or 203K limited, or it's been called in the past the 203K streamline. It's just a shame that lenders and agents don't typically know what they're talking about with this stuff because for years they would say to people, oh, you have to keep your renovation on a 203K under $35,000. It's not true. There's the other version of the 203K, which is the more popular version, the version that I use and my community uses and everything like that, which is just the 203K standard. Now, that one isn't limited in terms of renovation budget. Obviously, it's limited based on what you can get approved on and your loan limits in your area, but it's virtually unlimited in terms of like, if you wanna buy a house for $100,000 and put $400,000 into it, and you're able to afford a $500,000 mortgage, you could do that. The 203K limited is a version where it's kind of like a little quicker. There's not as much things going on because you're doing a little less work. Okay. So previously, up until very recently, it was only $35,000. Now, as you can imagine, a lot of high cost of living areas, 35 grand isn't going to get you much these days with a renovation, right? These were things where you're just doing minor stuff. The 203K limited only requires you to, only allows you to do minor, it says here, minor remodeling and non-structural repairs, right? So stuff that can't technically be, I lost my spot because I clicked that. Stuff that can't be like major renovation stuff. So what does this mean for you? What this means for you is if you are in the market and you are looking to buy something that's just a minor fixer-upper, you do not have to do a full 203K on that. Now, what I will say is that there's a couple downsides to the limited. The downsides being because there's a lack of paperwork, because there's a lack of oversight from the 203K consultant, since 203K consultants aren't required on a 203K limited, because they're not required, you live and die by the contractor. Now, the limited typically goes that they give you half the money you need up front and half the money when the contractor's done. They typically only gave you 3 months to do it. Now they're going to give you up to 6 months to do it. But the problem is if you don't know what you're doing, and it could blow up in your face easily if you're working with a crappy contractor, you don't have a clear scope of work, they get the chunk up front and then your contractor walks off the job. I see 203K limiteds go awry often. So again, if this is something where it's strictly, something like you're renovating kitchens and bathrooms lightly, you're doing walls, paint, appliances, stuff like that, great option to go with. Again, just make sure you're working with the right lender, and I would still recommend, even though it's not required, hiring a 203K consultant on this. All right, so that's the first part. That's the first part is the update from $35,000 to $75,000. Okay. The next one here is financing mortgage payment reserves. Now this is next in the grouping, but let me see if I skipped anything before I get there. Nope. All right. So this is where it gets pretty wild. Okay. So essentially, one of the cool things about the 203K loan is that they allow you to wrap the mortgage payments into the loan. So like if you ever seen on anything on TV and it's like, buy this TV, no payments for the first year. That's literally what's happening with this. So you could buy a house and get no payments for the first year, not have to pay any mortgage payments, anything for the first year. Now, the caveat to that is this. The idea here is that they give this to you because they're assuming that you're doing a renovation where you're not going to be able to live in the property. And they understand that it's in homeowner mortgage, so they understand that you're not probably going to be able to afford potentially renting somewhere if you're stuck renting somewhere, right? And paying for two places at the same time. And they understand that. So that's the reason why this went into effect. And previously it was 6 months. And I think one of the key points here is that, remember, it's not out of pocket, but it does get wrapped into the loan. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have $3,000 mortgage payments, right, a month. You're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of what is it? What would it be? It would be like 36 grand that you would have to factor into your mortgage. Now that's going to increase your loan amount. That's going to increase, the ability to get approved, stuff like that. Now, here's where it affects you. Here's where it's important for you. That's why I spend so much time on finding good deals, okay? Because here's the kicker. If you find a good deal and you find something that's deeply distressed, that has equity in it, and you have a big spread on your deal, which is the way I tell people to do this, then that allows you to do this and wrap the mortgage payments in and not have to worry about it and not feel the hit because you got it for a good deal. So this is why, for some people looking at this, they're like, oh, damn, it's just going to increase my mortgage. Like, I don't know if it's really worth it. But if you're trying to be a real estate investor, you're trying to be smart with your money, you're making a good investing decision, you get a good deal from the front end, wrap the cost in. If you're house hacking, your tenants are going to be paying the mortgage, not you. So who cares if the mortgage is a little higher? You got a good deal on it. Keep as much money in your pocket as possible, get to the 12 months, Hell, at the end of 12 months, you don't even technically have to live there anymore. We didn't even get into that, and that's kind of like a little gray area. But after that 12 months, you put the tenants in there and you go on, you move on to the next thing. So listen, it's a way to look at this, but it only works if you find good deals, which is obviously what I talk about. It's something that I help people with, and that's a key point here. So 12 months not having to pay for your mortgage is wild. Would you agree with that? Like, am I being crazy here? Let me know in the comments if this is crazy, because I think it is. Now, again, with great power comes great responsibility, and under no circumstances would I say to go out and do this and wrap all them when you don't know what you're doing. Okay? This is why the 203K way exists. This is why I build this platform, because I want you to do it in the right way and in the right manner. People could look at this and be like, oh no, that's grounds for disaster. Yeah, it would be if you're dumb and you don't buy the right deal and you over leverage yourself. I don't agree with that. I don't think it should be good. But I mean, imagine buying a house and fully renovating it and literally not having to pay for it for a year. If you're one of the lucky people that could go live with family for a year, basically save the cost of a renovation for a year, man, I mean, that's a game changer. Keep $36,000 in your pocket. Talk about a win. So wild thing. Now the other thing too is that I want to talk about the timeline thing real quick. So the reason why they increased it from, now what's crazy about all of this is that it was originally supposed to be 9 months. They were talking about this and they said, we're going to wrap up to 9 months mortgage payments into the deal. Now they went up to 12. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. I think the reason why is they realized that, and I'm looking for the next one here. Yeah, rehab period. So here's what happened. So when you would get a 203K, you would have to sign an affidavit, and when you did your scope of work, you'd have to say, we have to complete the project in 6 months. Okay? Now here's the thing, you have some renovations. I've seen 203Ks that are $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 renovations. Now, this is in places like New York and California and Florida. Like, you have a lot of building department stuff. It takes time to get permits, zoning, all these things that slow the project down. You blink and 6 months goes away in a lot of these projects. A big renovation could take easily a year, sometimes even more. So the reality was even though you said that you were getting it done in 6 months, we all knew that it wouldn't be done in 6 months. But you had to state it was going to be done in 6 months. So what ended up happening was a lot of people would get steered away from this, because if they didn't know any better, they'd look and be like, I can't complete a $300,000 renovation in 6 months. So they'd back out of the deal, or they wouldn't use a 203K. Now here's the secret. The secret is that they go over 6 months all the time. And if it goes over 6 months, there's no penalty. My first one went 8 months. I'm renovating my house right now. That's going into a year. I'm doing a major renovation for my own home, and it's going over a year. But like, as long as you give a reason as to why, with mine, it was permits and plans and zoning and everything like that. As long as you give a reason, it's not like just stalled and you're just ignoring the bank. You give them the reason. They know that the construction takes longer. But again, the good takeaway here is that they're understanding that, and they upped it to not to exceed 12 months. Now, again, the big thing to note here is just because it doesn't get done in 12 months doesn't mean that you're in trouble. You don't get penalized. There's no, like, they're not going to foreclose on you. All they're going to do is just extend the period. As long as you have a reason, and you have a decent reason, right? Plans, permits. Recently I just dealt with my plumber. My plumber was super busy, swamped, couldn't make it to me for 3 weeks. I'm finally getting the inspection tomorrow. But again, I can't control that. There's nothing I could do about that. So they upped it to 12 months for the standard. And again, for the limited, it's 9 months. But again, at the end of the day, this was kind of like irrelevant. But where I think it is really important is it doesn't give people this false belief of thinking that they need to complete in 6 months, or like do or die mode, right? So that's the other big one. So other things here are the consultant fees. They were raised. This is huge for consultants who deserve it. Consultants definitely do a lot of work on these, and they create the scope of work for you. They should be getting paid more. And the news to you is it's only helping them, and it's really not hurting you. All these fees are wrappable into the loan. They're kind of small in the grand scheme of your mortgage. It's only a couple grand, which doesn't really affect your payment. Affects your payments maybe dollars instead of, tens of dollars, 20, but the idea here is that they're going to be able to charge a little more for what they do when they create your scope of work, when they do their inspection, and when they do the draws. And it's going to scale over on like the bigger the renovations, the better. But again, this is all wrappable into the loan. You could pay out of pocket for it, but you get all that money at the closing table. So again, the takeaways here are the idea that if you are considering using this to house hack, right? If you're considering to use this to build equity, make a good financial decision, create equity, create cash flow, set yourself up financially to build generational wealth on your very first home. This is just another tool in the tool belt to increase your equity, decrease the amount of out of pocket, increase the amount of equity you're going to be able to get, and increase the ability to just make this an absolute game-changing property for you and your family. The things that they're releasing now. If you look at this from an untrained eye, you don't really understand it. But like me knowing what's possible, me knowing like, holy crap, I could have not paid out of pocket for my property for a year. That would have saved me thousands and thousands of dollars out of my pocket because my tenants rent it out now anyway. I turned it into a rental eventually, right? So that's a key point. It's a key point. Another little small thing I want to cover here is that if you're buying a multi-unit property, which is obviously something we talk a lot about here, you're buying a 2-family, 3-family, 4-family, they make mention of if you are wrapping the mortgage payments in. If one or more of the units are occupied, the payment reserves that they do, so like them covering your payments, will only include the portion of the payment that attributes to the units that can't be occupied. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's very wordy, but essentially the easier way to say it is like, they're going to give you the money for the units that aren't occupied, but they're not going to cover the units that the units that are getting paid for. So it's, again, makes sense. If you have an active tenant in one of the units, it's livable. It doesn't need to be renovated, or it's going to be renovated later. You're going to be getting that income from the tenant, but for the ones that are unoccupied, they're going to make up the difference. So say if it's your mortgage payment is $4,000 a month, you get $1,000 from one unit, and it's a quadplex, they'll give you $3,000 a month. Does that make sense? Again, these are things that are going to make it a game changer. If you're looking to use this as a vehicle to invest in real estate and really create a lot of long-term wealth with very little out of pocket, remember, you're putting 3.5% down. That's it. 3.5% down. It could be $15,000. You don't have to pay for your mortgage for a year. It's wild. It's wild, 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 wild. Now, the biggest takeaway from this is that it all comes down to finding a good deal. And if you don't find a good deal, none of this matters, okay? So if you're watching this and you're like, oh shit, how am I going to find a good deal? Well, that's what we talk about. That's what we do in the 203K Way group. We talk about the Goldilocks zone. We talk about how to find these good deals. We do other trainings on it. Coming up, I'm going to be doing a little bit more in-depth training on it, because the reality is that if you're fishing with this amazing piece of equipment, the 203K, when you combine it with really good deal finding, that's life-changing equity. That's life-changing cash flow for you and your family. We're talking generational wealth here. And you just have to have the two tools to fight together. All right? So I want everybody's questions on this. I'll answer some questions. I do have a little time to go into this. I'm sure there's probably a couple, but make sure you drop your questions down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is good? Do you think this is bad? Are you going to be taking advantage of this? At the end of the day, I think the biggest thing is just letting you know that it exists, because the reality is I'm the real estate rebel. Nobody talks about this thing. I am the guy that's against the grain. You have the lenders and agents out there that tell you, oh, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Bullshit. It created $2 million of net worth for me and my family in a couple years' time using these renovation loans. Don't fucking tell me it's not worth it. It's not worth it for you because you are sitting on the sidelines just trying to place an offer and you want to get your 6% on placing an offer. No, it's bullshit. Okay? This is a powerful loan. It works tremendously well when you have the right guidance and know how to do it, and we help you with that. I can get you the lenders. We can walk you through the process. It's easy. There's no amount of paperwork that's going to prevent you from being able to not pay for your mortgage for a year, be able to build hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity on your property, be able to cash flow it. Don't be a lender or a real estate agent and tell me that it's too much of a pain in the ass. No one's going to accept it. No, it's lazy. It's bullshit. Here's another example that the government, I'm not a big fan of the government. Here's an example where they're actually trying to go out of their way to help people. You're going to have more agents and more lenders out there bickering and bullshitting that you shouldn't be using this. This is insane. It's amazing that we have this ability to do this. And if you're not taking advantage of it, you're ridiculous and you don't like money, you don't like freedom. So I hope everybody understands this and agrees with me here. If you agree with me, let me know down below. But I mean, I can't believe that not more people know about this, especially when they're making legislation changes like this. I mean, for real estate agents, the 203K limited, again, we're looking here alone. Like if how many deals fall out of contract because like the inspection comes back junky, or the seller doesn't want to cover costs to repair the roof or something like that, and people just walk from the deal. That agent should be able to tell them, hey, listen, this is a neighborhood you really want. Let's flip it to a 203K limited loan. Let's get you over the finish line and let's win the deal. Or maybe their appraisal isn't working out. You could flip it to a 203K limited, still get the house. You have these people out there that are being defeated. They're struggling to find a house. They're looking for months and months and months. And the agent is too fucking lazy to give you the option to go flip it to another different loan because they don't know about it. So because they don't know about it or don't care to know about it, they screw over the borrower. It's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. All right. So I want to go ahead and answer some questions here. If you have any questions, please drop them down below. But, you know, obviously I'm passionate about this because here's another thing where they're laying it up on the table for us. We've seen it with Fannie Mae in the beginning of the year. We've seen it with all these other organizations that are making it easier and easier than ever. And people are sitting on the sidelines still saying that this is the worst. I had a guy from Belgium call me the other day. He reached out to me, followed one of my ads or whatever, reached out. He's like, I'd love to do this. I've never heard of this. I'm in Belgium. I'm like, oh, they don't have that in Belgium. He's like, oh, damn, man, everything I look at here, they don't offer anything like this in Belgium. I thought you were able to do this for me. He's like, why does America, like, for what it has great housing programs. We don't know how good we have it here. This is literally free money, free freaking money that can change you and your family's life, and you're not taking advantage of it. It's wild to me, and it's what's really pisses me off is the lenders and the agents that don't know about it, and then all these people that call themselves financial gurus and all this bullshit that don't know about it or tell people to stay away from it or tell people to stay away from house hacking. Let me see what questions we have, and we'll go into it. But Mikey Mike says, let's say I want to roll 7 to 8 months into the loan. Can they say the renovation I want to do in the house shouldn't take that long? Mike, it's a great question, man. And the idea is like, they could say that. It could be that. Like if you're saying it's a $30,000 renovation and you're trying to wrap, I see where you're going with this. You want to wrap 12 months in or 8 months in, but it's only a $30,000 renovation. No. But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with, like, don't get greedy on this, right? At the end of the day, like, if you are able to do a quick renovation, that's better because you can get tenants in there and start earning cash flow quicker if you're buying a multi-unit property. Okay? Like I understand what you're saying, Mike, and I respect it, and it's a great point. But like find what makes sense, push the envelope a little more. Because here's the thing. Construction takes longer than we all expected anyway. If you think it's going to take 6 months, it's probably going to take 12 anyway. That's just the way construction goes sometimes. So if you're estimating 3, if your contractor said they could do it for 3, say you could do it in 6 or 7. If they're saying they could do it in 6, go to the max to 12. If they say it's going to take 12, well, you better crack the whip and make sure they get it done in 12. But at the end of the day, again, this is free money. Most people are pulling out of their pocket or pulling out of their savings or using credit cards to finance a renovation. They're giving you all the money to finance it and live somewhere else while you're doing it and not have to pay. It's insane. Devin asked, how often do you actually have tenants while the reno is still going on? Devin, it happens, man. I'm a big believer of like buying a property that's unoccupied. If it's unoccupied, then it's easier to renovate. You don't have to deal with tenants. I like taking properties unoccupied. I also teach to get stuff as distressed as possible. Okay. Now, again, and this is like a multi-unit scenario, but like you could even do a single family with an accessory unit. It's a whole nother thing that we could talk about. building an accessory unit using this, not having to pay. But hopefully that answers your question, Devin. It does happen sometimes. I've had some people that I worked with that happened. Veronica asked from 35 to 75. That's awesome. Yeah. Again, remember on the limiteds, those are just for like, if that's not going to be really moving. That's if you buy like a really good like lipstick on a pig type of deal. That's probably going to be more for people that are looking, unless you get a really good deal that's like, that you just get it at a good price, you get it off market or something like that. It's just going to be for cosmetic and non-structural. But the second you have to like move a wall or install some, change some windows or change headers or whatever, as soon as you start moving structure around, rechanging layout, moving walls, anything like that, adding square footage, that doesn't count. So even though it's nice, 75,000, they don't want you to do anything that's not just touch up. Hopefully that makes sense. But again, for the retail buyer, this is huge. So if you're a real estate agent watching this, this is a game changer. This is going to save so many deals for you. Brian says, how long does it usually take to find a lender through the lender referral link? Brian, fill it out now. We'll have someone in touch with you today or tomorrow. So again, at the 203kway.com/lender, right here, 203kway.com/lender, pretty easy to remember. You go here, fill out the form. We'll put you in contact with someone. Potentially Jai from my team will reach out to you guys just to kind of maybe ask a couple questions just to qualify kind of where you're looking to go and what you're looking to do. And then she'll either direct you to talk to the lender or the lender will reach out to you directly depending on what market you're in. But great question, Brian. She said, indeed. Matthew said, Matt, please leave a link. Can't watch the live stream with the baby right now. Yeah, Matt, it'll be back. It should save here in the group, but we'll make sure to shoot it over to you when you're done. Chris asked, still have to live in it for a year when done, correct? No, Chris. So it's a great question. Now here's the thing. This is the gray area. This is something where like I don't want to get in trouble for saying this and say this or like regret it later. The rule is that you have to intend to occupy the property from a year after the date of closing. Not when you move into the property, not when the renovation's complete. The idea with FHA is they only have a statute of limitation of 12 months after the date of closing. Now, you can probably see where people would try to exploit this and change it because they're thinking, hey, if I could buy a house and flip it and do this renovation and never have to move in after 12 months, they can't come after me. I could go off and go on to the next one. I'm not saying you can or can't do that. I don't know. But the reality is if you don't intend on ever moving into this property, that's mortgage fraud, and I will never condone that, okay? Now, the idea here is you are using this as a vehicle to move down the road. You're going to create significant equity. It's going to put you in a better position and open up a lot of doors for you. You could potentially repeat the process. There's a lot of different ways you could do this. I'm a big believer of get into something. It's giving you a place to live in it for a little bit, hold it, look for something that cash flows well. That's a good deal that you can hold. As someone that was a flipper myself, my only regret was not holding more of the properties I flipped. There's one or two that I did that I really should have held. So like set it up so it has a long-term ability to hold. It's going to build equity. It's going to build equity over time. And again, you're putting so little out of pocket. What I've been telling the people in my community on a long time, look at this as if you put $15,000 down on a $500,000 property. If you have your tenants that are just covering the mortgage, maybe you're not even cash flowing on it, and the property appreciates at 3.5% a year on average, compounding, plus you have the tenant paying the mortgage, paying down the mortgage, plus you're appreciating, plus you're getting the tax benefits. In 5 to 10 years, you're 20xing your money, 30xing your money. There's no other investment vehicle out there that does it. Now, again, don't get greedy on it. Don't get egregious with it. But the idea here is like, use this for what it is. This isn't a flipping loan. Don't flip with it, okay? You could potentially, you could do it slow and controlled and do the live-in flip strategy. It's what a lot of people do. But don't go into it with the intention of flipping it. Don't be egregious with it. Don't abuse it. It takes away what's special about the whole thing, right? Monica says, great content as always. Monica, I appreciate that. Thank you. Veronica says, there's no good deals in NorCal. It's mostly much more than just cosmetic. Veronica, deal finding is a whole nother thing we can talk. The reality is you're just searching on MLS and you're never going to find deals out there. That's where deals go to die. You need to have an implementation process. If you want to chat about that, I could talk about how I can help you with that. But if you're looking into that, just DM me and send me a message if you're interested in chat, and we could chat a little bit about how I help people find the deals. But it's a good point, Veronica. Devin said that might be a good thing. Matt prefers more distressed houses. Yeah, Devin, no, that's exactly what it is. I mean, the more the better. And there's a certain untapped part of the market where you can go after right now that nobody's talking about. And that's been what a lot of people have been succeeding with. I think when you go after something like that, you're going to be setting yourself above the other retail buyers in the market, that you're doing at what everybody else is doing. That's why it's not working. Brian says, filled out the form a few days ago, but haven't heard back. That's weird. I don't remember. I get alerts on that. I didn't remember seeing your name come through. Brian, just go ahead and, if you don't mind, just fill it out one more time, because I didn't see it come through. So maybe something got messed up. I would recognize your name if I saw it, but just double check, Brian, and message me if you have any issues with it. Monica asks, we can 203K in distressed property that's requesting cash due to condition, right? Absolutely, Monica. Absolutely. I bought a couple of my deals that way. They say cash financing because they don't, again, these agents don't even know the 203K freaking exists. So they say accepting cash financing. Ideally, you could come in with a 203K and pay more because you're putting so little down out of pocket and you're paying a lower interest rate than your investors are. So I'm going to go more into this, and we're going to go into the deal finding thing. There's a bunch of you on here now, but what I would also like to say is, obviously we're getting a lot of questions about this. There's been so many things that are changing, so many things that are updating, everything like that. And I think there's just been a disconnect with so many things going on. I think a lot of people still don't understand this process and how to really use my strategy, my flip hacking, my 203K way strategy, as a way to leverage yourself in a market where it's super competitive and super, super stressful right now. So I am curious, if you're watching this right now, you've made it this far, I am thinking about doing, I'm thinking not next week, but the week after, a 5-day challenge, 5-day workshop live, me teaching here in the group, teaching the process from start to finish. Probably be about an hour a day, where we just go in from the very beginning to the very end and take you through the process, show everybody holistically how this whole thing works. Because sometimes these trainings, they're good and they're little bite-sized nuggets, but I think a lot of people get confused, even in the chat right now, are kind of coming up with that. So I'm thinking about putting together a 5-day challenge. I haven't 100% committed to it yet. So if you're watching this right now, if you'd be interested in doing the 5-day challenge, just type challenge below. Because I'm curious who would actually be interested in joining that. It would probably be like later in the night, probably where everybody can make it, like an 8 o'clock Eastern type thing. But again, just write challenge so I know you're interested in the challenge. That way, if I do it, I can come back and see who is interested, so I could send you a sign up link for that. But I'm very curious to see if anyone would be interested, because this is obviously different. Nobody else does this out there. Again, I'm the real estate rebel here. I know people still. I was talking to a real estate agent the other day. He's a broker owner, has 50 agents under his belt in Northern California. I was talking to him about a completely different story. I was telling him about my 203K side of the business, and he's like, "What's a 203K?" It's crazy. He's a broker, and he has 50 agents working beneath him. He doesn't even know what the 203K is. He'd never heard of it before. That's crazy. It's a travesty, man. So I know I have the burden of having to teach people it, because I'm the person that understands it and have done it so many times and has helped so many people do it. But I understand that a lot of people don't understand it. I'm not here. I'm here to serve the 203K loan because I saw how it changed my life and changed the lives of so many other people. I'm not here to lead the charge. I do not want to be the only 203K guy. I don't want me to be the only one talking about it. I hate that. But the reality is I need to keep getting the word out. And this challenge format, where in the course of 5 days, I want to take you from having zero idea what you're doing to being able to placing offers on your house at, getting the financing, be able to be actually taking advantage of this from a knowledgeable standpoint. So again, if you are interested in that, type challenge below, just so I could gauge a little bit of the interest. And I will, if I'm just working out some kinks and stuff, but it would be, again, not next week, the week after, I believe, that we would do this. And again, very comprehensive. I'll think about some options on recording it and everything like that. That way, if you can't make every night, which I understand, we'll be able to still get it done. Cool. A couple people interested in that. Awesome. All right. Mikey asked, in Connecticut, we got a program called Time to Own. In some areas, the government forgives up to $50K if you keep it for 10 years. They forgive you $5K a year up until 10 years. Imagine combining it with the 203K loan. People sleep on the government programs. Yeah, Mike, you know what it is? Here's the reason. The reason why a lot of this stuff is slept on is because even though they're better for the borrower, the reality is that the real estate agents and the lenders are the ones holding the keys. And they're holding the keys to the doors, and that's the way the industry is built. Therefore, they are gatekeeping everything from the borrower. These programs are great. They're awesome. They're out there. Nobody uses them. And it's a shame because these lenders and agents have no desire to give you the keys because there's no benefit to them. There's no benefit to them to giving you the key. They hold the key for themselves because they don't want to infringe on their benefit. If they have to do a little extra work, and it's not a lot of work, that's the funniest part. And if anything, it makes them a better agent because they're providing you, the borrower or the buyer, more value. But God forbid people actually went out of the way to help people these days. Everyone's so self-centered these days. Nobody's out there to help other people. So they hold it back. And that absolutely kills me. And it's a travesty. And it's the reason the 203K way exists. I don't do that. I did this because I saw there was such a freaking need from people. I never expected to create this. I never expected to do this and start teaching people and coaching people. The 203, let's put it this way. The 203K way wouldn't exist if lenders and agents did their freaking jobs. They don't. And the reality is people are stuck and they're struggling. They're having trouble being able to afford houses. They're looking at the market. They're like, how does anybody afford what to do? How to do this? Then you look at something like a 203K, you look at house hacking, you look at combining the two things, and it solves the problem. It makes their mortgage payments a lot less. It allows them to get into something for way less. It allows them to build equity instead of lose equity when they buy their house. These agents are telling people to overpay for properties to get their offer accepted, making people pay $20,000, $50,000 over asking, telling you, oh, it'll be worth it in the long run. Yeah, it's easy for them to say because they're not the one holding the mortgage at the end of the day. So they're going to sit there and tell you, oh, go after this, Yeah, of course. They want you to go after it because it means their commission check's going to be higher and they're going to get to the finish line, see ya, later, and they're done. Because they look at you and they say, you're not buying a house for another 30 years, so you're dead to me, on to the next. And they'll gaslight you into thinking that it's the right decision. It's bullshit. Real estate's a powerful vehicle if you know how to use it. You could use it like 99% of the people out there that are getting screwed and swindled, or you could use it like the 1%, the rich people, the people that are building generational wealth, and use it as an asset building class to change the way that you and your family live your life. But you have agents and lenders in the way of doing that because their intentions are not about you. They're commission-based employees. They're working to get commission. That's it. It's just not right. It's not right. Obviously, I could sit here for hours and talk about this, but any other questions anyone have about this? Before I jump, hopefully everyone was getting a lot out of this. Again, this is just another change in the right direction with this. If you are interested in the challenge, in the 5-day challenge, please type challenge below in the comments. That way I know this is something that you'd be interested in. And that way when we do release the registration for it, I'm going to do one at some point. I just don't know exactly when it's going to be yet. But when I do release it, I want to make sure that you get in and get your spot on it. I'm sure the spots will be limited, so we'll drop that in, and I will message you the link when we are ready to do it. But yeah, guys, hopefully you got a lot out of this. This is Really exciting stuff. If you need a lender that's going to help you do this, the 203kway.com/lender to get connected with one of my lender partners. If not, just go out there, tell other people it exists. If you're a real estate professional, you need to know this information. And if you're a borrower, you're a buyer, just know that there's programs out there to help you deal with this crazy market that we're seeing right now. You just need to put it into in the process and take advantage of it. So, all right, everyone, thank you very much. We will see you on the next one. Take care.